All right, welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today, going back to 2021, the Oppo Find X3 Pro. Using an article, actually it's from 2023 on RechargeMyTopup.com. They're all about mobile tech. And, we don't want to just list specs, right? We want to figure out what made this phone, what made it unique, what made it stand out.
Yeah, it's interesting looking back. You can really see how smartphones have evolved, and this phone is like a snapshot of that time. It's cool.
Okay, so let's jump in. The display first. Big selling point, right? 6.7-inch AMOLED screen. It's got this resolution, 1440 by 3216, and then 120 hertz refresh rate. So much tech jargon, though. What does it all mean for someone actually using this phone?
Well, imagine you're, scrolling through your Instagram feed. Every image is going to be super crisp, the colors are vibrant, and everything just moves so smoothly. That's because of AMOLED. Great colors, deep blacks, and the resolution makes every detail, like razor sharp.
Okay, I get it. It's a really good screen, but 120 hertz. What's the big deal about the refresh rate?
Oh, that's huge, especially if you're into gaming. Let's say you're playing something fast-paced. That 120 hertz means the screen updates twice as fast as, your typical phone. Like 60 hertz is normal, so it's way smoother, more responsive, like watching a movie at a high frame rate instead of a choppy video.
Gotcha. No more motion blur, no lag. Now, what about this HDR10 Plus and this 1200 nits brightness? I got to be honest, I see those terms and my eyes kind of glaze over a bit. Help me out here.
Yeah, no worries. HDR10 plus Pellister, it basically expands the colors and contrast you can see. Think of it like a faded photo compared to a really vibrant painting. All the details and the highlights and shadows just pop.
Makes it more, immersive, like you're actually there.
Exactly. And the brightness, that's great for outdoors. Bright sunlight, no problem. It's like having a personal spotlight on your screen. You can always see everything clearly.
All right, so amazing visuals, but what about the brain power behind it all? The article mentions a Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 processor. This phone's from 2021. Was that a good chip back then?
Oh, yeah. The 888 was the top of the line in 2021. Powerful, could handle anything you threw at it, like having a supercomputer in your pocket. Games, multitasking, everything felt super responsive. It was the real deal.
And with 12 gigabytes of RAM, that's still a lot today, but in 2021, that must have been insane.
Okay, it was a game changer. Meant you could have a ton of apps open, no slowdowns whatsoever. Imagine switching between photo editing, streaming video, browsing the web, all at the same time. Totally smooth.
Speaking of things that were ahead of their time, let's talk cameras. This phone had 4 cameras on the back, a 50-megapixel primary lens, then an ultra-wide, a telephoto, and even a macro lens. Seems like they wanted it all.
They did. Smartphone cameras were getting really good then, and this phone was pushing the boundaries. Let's go through them one by one, see what each camera brought to the table. It's pretty interesting.
Okay, so 50 megapixels, that's a lot. Even by today's standards, what made this primary camera special?
It wasn't just the megapixels, it was the combo of the sensor size and the aperture, meant it could capture a ton of light. That's so important for low light photos. Lots of phones struggle with that.
So night shots, indoor photos, all look good. No need to use the flash all the time.
Exactly. Now, ultra-wide lenses, those are great for landscapes, right?
Yeah.
Big group shots, too.
Yeah, I love ultra-wides. What did the Find X3 Pro offer there?
123-degree field of view, perfect for capturing those wide vistas or fitting everyone into a group selfie.
No more cutting people out of those group photos.
Yeah.
Now, the telephoto lens, 3 times optical zoom, the article says. I know digital zoom is kind of bad. Why is optical zoom better?
Well, digital zoom is basically just cropping the image, right? So you lose quality. Optical zoom uses the lens to actually magnify things like a real camera. Much clearer results.
Oh, so it's like zooming in without losing any detail. Makes sense.
Yeah. Imagine you're at a concert, you want to get a close-up of the band. Optical zoom lets you do that without the image getting all blurry and pixelated.
Makes sense. Now the macro lens, that one seems a bit more specialized. Who's that really for?
The macro lens is for people who love details, like getting up close to a flower and seeing all the intricate patterns, almost like having a microscope in your pocket. It's really cool for exploring the tiny world around us.
So they really did try to make a camera system for everyone, from casual users to serious photographers.
Definitely. It was a really well-rounded camera experience. They were ahead of the curve in a lot of ways.
Okay, all this amazing tech needs a good battery, right? The article mentions a 4500 milliampere battery. How was that back in 2021? Was it good enough for a full day of use?
Oh yeah, 4500 milliamp was a pretty solid battery back then. Most people could easily get through a day. Of course, it always depends on your usage, screen brightness, how much you're gaming, that kind of thing.
And it had fast charging support too, right? That's pretty much essential these days.
Oh, absolutely. Nobody wants to wait hours for their phone to charge. Fast charging is a game changer.
So, good battery life, fast charging, sounds like a good combo. Now, what about the software? It ran ColorOS, which is Oppo's version of Android, right? How was that for the user interface and customization?
ColorOS is known for being smooth and very customizable. Lots of themes, wallpapers, icon packs, fonts, all that. You could really personalize your phone and make it your own. It was pretty cool.
So if you like to tinker with settings and make your phone look just the way you want, ColorOS was a good option.
Yeah, it was all about giving you the freedom to express yourself through your phone's interface.
Now let's move on to the design. Glass back, metal frame, they were going for a premium feel. The article mentions it being quite thin and light too.
Yeah, they really nailed the design. It's sleek, comfortable to hold, only 8.26 millimeters thick, weighs 193 grams. And a lot of phones back then were getting kind of bulky, so this was a nice change.
Yeah, design and how it feels in your hand, that's important. You don't want a phone that feels like a brick. And it had an in-display fingerprint sensor, right?
Yep.
That was pretty futuristic back then.
Oh yeah, in-display fingerprint sensors were becoming the standard for high-end phones. It's not just about function, it's about that seamless look, tech integrated into the design.
It's cool, yeah, like something out of a sci-fi movie. And it was IP68 rated too, for dust and water resistance.
That's a big one. IP68 means it's protected from dust and can handle being submerged in water up to a certain depth. So spills, rain, even a quick dip in the pool, no worries. Gives you peace of mind.
Definitely a plus for anyone who's a bit clumsy or lives an active lifestyle.
Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap up this part, let's quickly go over some of the other features. Dual SIM support, good for travelers or people with multiple numbers.
Yeah, that was a really useful feature, especially as international travel was becoming more and more common.
And for audio, it had dual speakers and Dolby Atmos support, aimed at the media lovers, I guess.
For sure. Watching movies, listening to music, it sounded amazing. Really immersive audio experience.
Okay, last thing, storage. 256 gigabytes of internal storage. How's that back in 2021?
A lot. A little. 256 gigabyte was a lot back then. Plenty of space for apps, photos, videos, music. You wouldn't run out easily. Cloud storage wasn't as big then, so having lots of storage on your phone was really important.
So it's a good choice. Future-proofed in terms of storage, at least. All right, we've covered a lot. Display, performance, cameras, battery, software, design. This phone was packed with features.
It really was. It's amazing how much tech they squeezed into this phone. A true flagship of its time.
But things change quickly in the tech world, right? So how does the Find X3 Pro stack up against today's phones? What would we consider top of the line now? Let's talk about that in part 2 of this deep dive.
Yeah, it really makes you realize how fast tech moves, doesn't it? Like, just a blink of an eye and everything's changed.
It does. So for someone who maybe still has a Find X3 Pro or is thinking of getting one, like used, how does it actually compare to what's out there now? Should we be jealous of all the new phones?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, the newest phones have some fancier specs, but the Find X3 Pro can still hold its own for sure. It depends what you're looking for in a phone,
Right. Not everyone needs the absolute newest tech. Some people want a phone that just works, that they're familiar with.
Exactly. And this phone, it still delivers, but there are some areas where tech has really moved forward since then.
Okay, let's break that down. Processors first. The Find X3 Pro had the Snapdragon 888, which was great then. What kind of processors are we seeing now in those top-tier phones?
Well, now you've got processors that are even faster, but also more energy efficient. Like, take the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. It's a big jump up from the 888. Can handle even more demanding stuff like gaming and multitasking, no problem.
So everything's smoother, faster, the whole phone just feels snappier. What about cameras? I know the Find X3 Pro's camera was good, but I bet things have gotten even crazier since then.
Oh yeah, cameras have come a long way. The biggest thing is probably computational photography, using AI. Basically, the camera's using smarts to analyze what you're shooting, adjust settings, even improve the image afterwards.
So it's not just about the hardware anymore. The software is doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Exactly. And the results are incredible. Take portrait mode, for example, where it blurs the background. AI is so good now, it can detect edges perfectly. The blur looks super natural.
Like having a pro photographer in your pocket. What other AI tricks are there?
Oh, tons. Improving low-light photos, getting rid of noise, even making images bigger without losing quality.
It really is like a mini photo studio now.
Yeah.
Okay, what about screens? Any changes there? Still all AMOLED.
AMOLED is still popular, yeah, but there's a new kid on the block. MicroLED. It's like the next level. Even brighter, better contrast, more accurate colors. AMOLED was great, but MicroLED is like, wow.
Sounds like a visual treat.
Yeah.
And refresh rates. I know the Find X3 Pro is 120 hertz, super smooth. Have we gone even higher than that now?
Yep. As some phones are pushing 144 hertz, even under 65 hertz now. Everything's just ultra fluid, especially noticeable in games.
So for gamers, those higher refresh rates are like the ultimate thing. Now, battery life, always a big one. The Find X3 Pro had a 4500 mAh battery, plus fast charging. How have batteries changed?
Well, batteries are getting bigger, for one, and charging speeds are way faster now. Some phones can go from 0 to fully charged in like under an hour. It's crazy.
Remember when we used to leave our phones plugged in all night? Seems like forever ago.
Yeah.
What about wireless charging? Is that getting better too?
Oh, absolutely. Wireless charging is almost standard on high-end phones now. And the speeds are getting close to wired charging. Plus, there's new stuff like reverse wireless charging.
Reverse wireless charging, what's that?
Just let's say your friend's phone is dying. You can actually use your phone to charge theirs wirelessly. Basically, your phone becomes a wireless charging pad. Pretty cool, Brian.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of cool, we got to talk about foldable phones. They were pretty new back then, but now it seems like they're everywhere. What do you think of them?
Foldable phones are really interesting. It's like the best of both worlds, Big screen when you need it, but still small enough to fit in your pocket. I think they have a lot of potential.
So from processors to cameras, screens, batteries, even foldable phones, things have really changed since the Find X3 Pro.
It's amazing to see how far we've come in just a few years. It makes you wonder what's next,
It does.
Yeah.
What do you think the future holds for smartphones? Any predictions?
Tough question. I think we'll keep seeing improvements in all those areas we talked about, that's for sure. But I also think the focus will shift more towards, like, the user experience, more personalized, more integrated with our lives.
Integrated with our lives. In what way?
Well, think about it. Our phones are already controlling our smart homes, our finances, our fitness trackers. I think that's just the beginning. They'll become even more connected to everything around us,
So not just a phone, but like an extension of ourselves almost, helping us navigate the world.
Exactly. Which brings us to a question. Where does the Oppo Find X3 Pro fit into all this? Is it just a relic of the past, or does it still have a place in this new world of smartphones?
That's a great question, and one we'll tackle in the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned. Okay, so we've spent this whole deep dive talking about the Oppo Find X3 Pro. It was a flagship phone back in 2021. And we've talked about how much smartphones have changed since then, right? Faster processors, crazy cameras, even those foldable phones. So where does that leave the Find X3 Pro now in 2025? Is it outdated, or can it still keep up?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, it might not have all the fancy new features, but it's definitely not a bad phone. Not at all. The screen is still amazing. It's got plenty of power. The camera's versatile. And the design, it still looks and feels premium, even today.
So it's not cutting edge, but it's still a good experience. But let's get practical here. What if someone's actually thinking about buying one now, maybe used or refurbished?
Right.
What should they look out for?
Well, first thing I'd say is check the battery. Batteries don't last forever, right?
Yeah.
Make sure it can still hold a decent charge. You don't want to be stuck near an outlet all day.
Good point. Yeah. Especially if you're using it a lot for gaming or streaming, things like that.
Yeah.
What else should people check before they buy?
Look at the condition, obviously. Any scratches, dents? How's the screen? Make sure all the buttons and ports work properly, too. And, if you can, find out about the warranty.
And, of course, the price should be reasonable. You don't want to overpay for a phone that's a few years old.
Right. Shop around, compare prices, see what's out there. You can often find really good deals on used phones.
So, yeah, if you're looking for a good phone and you're on a budget, the Find X3 Pro could still be a good option.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you don't always need the latest and greatest to have a good experience.
Definitely. And sometimes it's fun to go back and use older tech, It makes you appreciate how far we've come. And those older devices, they still have something to offer.
Yeah, like, it's kind of those classic cars, right?
Yeah.
They might not have all the modern features, but they have a certain charm, a history to them. People still love them.
Exactly. And older phones, they can be like that too. A bit nostalgic,
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the Oppo Find X3 Pro, I think what we've learned is technology keeps moving forward, but that doesn't mean older tech becomes useless. There's still a lot to appreciate in the phones that came before. They paved the way for what we have today.
For sure. And it's good to remember it's not always about having the newest thing. Sometimes those older, well-designed devices, they can still be great to use. It's all about finding what works for you.
Well said. And that's it for this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed learning about the Oppo Find X3 Pro and how it fits into the bigger picture of smartphones and how they've evolved. It's a fascinating world.
It really is. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
And everyone listening, thanks for joining us. Keep exploring, keep learning, and stay curious about tech.